And it's just basketball. At the end of the day, it's just basketball.
Like and subscribe on the way in the door, my people. I hope you all are having a truly, truly fantastic day today. Welcome back, my people. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Rich Paul is proof that you do not have to be smart to be successful. Rich Paul is proof that all you need to do is have a friend that is talented enough to make it to the NBA during a time that the NBA is so desperate that they are willing to manufacture a superstar from their desperation of searching for the next Michael Jordan. And if you have that kind of friend at the right time, you too, ladies and gentlemen, can be Rich Paul. Okay, people, so everybody knows that Michael Jordan's former agent, David Falk, made some statements that some would say were controversial. I don't think they were controversial at all. David Falk simply said that his top three, he had Michael Jordan as the GOAT. He had Kareem and Kobe in his top three. And he said, maybe LeBron James cracks the top 10. Maybe. He wasn't completely sure about that. And I think that is absolutely reasonable. I think that is completely logical. And as a matter of fact, like I said, if you have LeBron James in your top 5 or top 10, I suggest that you sit down and truly think what it means when you form super teams, what it means when you flop. Is that cheating the game? And if your answer is yes, then there is no way that you could have LeBron James in your top 10. But, so David Falk made those statements, and of course, it is getting some reaction, and you should expect no less than Unklutch Sports to give their reaction, because this is what they do. This is why they're here, is to try to combat the truth. Let's be 100% clear on why Klutch Sports exists. It is to combat the truth and to try to control the narrative. So, without further ado, my people, let's get into the originator of the deer, Rich Paul, and hear what Unklutch Sports had to say about LeBron James cherry-picking his teammates and teams.
David Falk said something the other day about LeBron cherry-picking, and they was talking about it this morning, and I'm like, that's interesting to use the term cherry picking when, if we're going to make a fruit basket here, maybe I'll sing you one after I leave for having me on the show.
Thank you, Rich.
But the careers of the LeBron and Michael Jordan, it's not apples and apples for a number of reasons. But the cherry picking terminology of it all, coming from someone who literally had John Thompson, Dean Smith, and Mike Krzyzewski supporting his business, putting superstar athletes in his lap. I think he was part of the Cherry Clan. My dad used to sell that candy back in the day.
So let's hold up right there. He basically tried to say that since David Falk had people feeding him superstars, that this equates to what LeBron James is doing. Rich Paul, wrong. LeBron James is a player in the NBA who is supposed to be competing because sports is about competition. David Falk is someone who represents people who are in the NBA, and he is supposed to do whatever it takes to get the most high-profile clients that he can. There's a difference, and unfortunately, we actually have to explain the difference to the dummy, Rich Paul, who thought goats had antlers. Rich Paul, this is not the same. I'm very perplexed at why this even needs an explanation of why you just don't inherently understand that these are two different situations. One is an athlete who's in a professional sport where competition is the foundation, and I'm not saying that you're not competing if you're the agent of somebody, but the objectives are different. As an agent, you are supposed to be getting the most high-profile clients by any means necessary. As a superstar in the NBA, there are standards that have been set before you ever got there. And if you want to be recognized as great, then that means you have to follow those standards to achieve your greatness. That means you have one or two choices to achieve that greatness. You either have to follow the standards to achieve that greatness, or number two, if you want to be seen as the greatest, that means you have to follow the standards and add to them. You can't change the standards. You can't take a shortcut around the standards. You can't bypass the standards and get the same recognition as every other athlete who performed by those standards, by those metrics, who were judged by those standards. Rich Paul, I'm kind of at a loss because you've done so many interviews sounding ridiculous. You are the epitome of a LeBron James fanboy, and that is no common sense whatsoever. Anyway, my people, let's continue.
Used to sell that candy back in the day. I just thought that was very unfair and a little beneath David Falk for a number of reasons, and so we can't have revisionist history, and we all want to just determine who's the GOAT and who's the best. And
hold up, people. Hold up. Hold up, people. Did Rich Paul from Unklutch Sports just say we can't have revisionist history? Surely that's not what Rich Paul said. Hold up. Let's play that one more time. Let's see here.
We can't have revisionist history, and we all want to just determine who's
that's exactly what Rich Paul said, people. Rich Paul from Unklutch Sports, the originator of the deer, because he didn't understand goats had horns and not antlers. The person who just recently said that Miami was not a super team because of Chris Bosh. He was trying to diminish Chris Bosh. The person who was sitting beside the deer, the duck, the leader of the 4 and 6 kingdom when he declared himself the GOAT, and Rich Paul replied for so many reasons. Shout out to Scap Attack, because I just got I watched a video from Scap Attack earlier addressing this. Rich Paul, the person who is in charge of rewriting history from every angle, just said we can't be rewriting history. My people, what world are we living in? What the hell is this guy talking about? I don't know, people. This video might get a little outside of what I would normally do, because This is completely ridiculous. LeBron James fanboys, surely this can't be logical to you. I know it is. I know I'm asking a question to which I already know the answer, and to which everyone who watches you guys just to be entertained and get a laugh at your ridiculousness already know the answer to. But it just seems so unbelievable that one's common sense can be so far off, that one who does the exact same thing that they said they dislike cannot recognize that this is exactly what he does on a daily basis. We can't rewrite history, Rich Paul. Are you kidding me? What the hell are you talking about? All right, people, let's continue.
We can't have revisionist history, and we all want to just determine who's the GOAT and who's the best, and so on and so forth. But I just thought that was a little beneath David to say that, and I'll table that there. But,
well, because we were going to bring that up, and for those who might not know what Rich is referring to, is a Sports Business Journal quote from the longtime agent of Jordan saying, "I really liked LeBron, but I think if Jordan had cherry-picked what teams he wanted to be on and two other superstars, he would have won 15 championships."
And again, when you look at that, right? Again, the cherry pick, I've discussed that. The two other superstars, Michael never had to leave. Michael's never been the underdog in any finals.
Okay, people, so this is a bold-faced lie. For anybody who has followed the career of Michael Jordan, number one, you know that their very first championship, the Bulls were the underdog. People did not think the Bulls could overcome Magic and the experience of the Lakers. This is a fact. All the media and everybody was saying the same thing, is that they didn't think the Bulls could overcome the experience of the Lakers. In '98, they didn't know if the Bulls had what it takes. They thought the Bulls were getting too old, and Utah Jazz had not only beat the Bulls both times in the regular season, but they had also swept the Los Angeles Lakers with Shaq and Kobe on the way to the finals. But here's something, Rich Paul. Let me put you up on some game, Rich Paul. Let me give you just a little bit of insight as to why years later it feels like Michael Jordan was never the underdog. Guess why? Because Michael Jordan established a reputation for winning. He established a reputation for delivering with no excuses. As May said, Michael Jordan never had any excuse for not delivering, and that's why we still wear Jordans instead of LeBrons. When you get used to someone, and let's be clear, we're not ignoring the fact that Michael Jordan had failures early in his career. Again, I have to say it, real Jordan fans accept this as part of the legacy. This is actually part of what makes the legacy even greater. Again, I must say over and over again, for you ridiculous LeBron James fanboys, and for Rich Paul, and for LeBron James, and for JJ Redick, and for Shannon Sharp, and for Nick Wright, and for everybody who spends their days and seconds and minutes and hours capping for the duck, the deer, the leader of the 4 and 6 kingdom, I have to tell you guys over and over again that fans of Michael Jordan accept the failures because it is about the how. This is what makes his legacy even greater, is the failures. The fact that he kept getting beat by Boston, the fact that he kept getting beat by Detroit, and he didn't jump ship from his team, he remained on his team. Which brings me to the next point, because Rich Paul, the originator of the duck, because he didn't realize goats don't have antlers, he said that Michael Jordan didn't have to leave Chicago. Basically, Michael Jordan didn't have to because he had Scottie and Phil Jackson and Jerry Krause. LeBron James did not have to leave Cleveland. Here's what you have to ask yourself. See, why is it that everything associated with Michael Jordan is beyond great? This is what you have. Rich Paul, the originator of the duck. This is what you have to ask yourself, is why is everything associated with Michael Jordan great or beyond great? Like, why is everything associated with Michael Jordan the greatest? Why is Scottie Pippen called the greatest sidekick in NBA sports history? Why is Phil Jackson called the greatest coach? Why is Jerry Krause get so much praise? Why is Nike such an empire? Why is Gatorade like it is? Why did the NBA grow beyond magnitudes that can't be explained during the Michael Jordan era? Why were the NBA ratings the greatest that they have ever been during the Michael Jordan era? Explain this. Who is the common denominator? Because when you guys want to talk about Phil Jackson and Jerry Krause and Scottie Pippen, okay, that's on the basketball court. But what about outside the basketball court? Why is everything associated with Michael Jordan reach heights that has never been seen before? LeBron James shoes doesn't sell anywhere near what Michael Jordan sells, and LeBron James had the benefit of Nike already being established. Michael Jordan came during a time where they were trying to establish the sports division of the shoe, when Converse was still leading the pack. Why is it that when Nike is already established, the game is already global, LeBron James has had every advantage possible, but he couldn't get his shoes to sell like Michael Jordan's? Is that because they couldn't advertise the same way? Because that would be false. Why is it? Is that because the game isn't known as worldwide? Because that would be false. Or do you have to face the fact that the Jordan brand sold the way it did and became as big as it did because of how Michael Jordan played on the floor? Do you have to face the fact that Scottie Pippen became who he became because he got to play with Michael Jordan? Do you have to face the fact that Phil Jackson was able to do what he did because he had Michael Jordan on his team, who was not only the greatest player to ever play the game, but was also very coachable, and because Michael Jordan was coachable and was completely invested in what Phil Jackson was saying, he got the rest of the team to do the same, which is the most important thing. Again, the most important, I think the whole X's and O's things from coaches is somewhat overrated. I'm not saying it's completely overrated. I'm not saying as a coach you don't have to know the X's and O's and you know, that kind of thing. But what I'm saying is more important than that, more important than the X's and O's, is everybody being on one accord to execute the plan. You can have a plan that may not be the 100% greatest plan put together, but if you get everybody to buy into that plan could still be successful. However, you can have a great plan that is should be foolproof. But if nobody is buying into what you're doing, it is going to fail. It is the people executing that matters. And so what matters is that everybody is together in unity to execute the plan. So maybe Phil Jackson is who he is because he coached Michael Jordan, and then he got to coach the next best thing to Michael Jordan, who not was just the next best thing to Michael Jordan, but was also a student of Michael Jordan. Kobe was a student of Michael Jordan who not only developed a big brother, little brother relationship, but who Phil Jackson himself would bring in to talk to Kobe about letting the game come to him more. Maybe this is why Phil Jackson is seen as a great coach, because he got to coach the GOAT. Maybe this is why Jerry Krause is seen as great, because let's get something real. Jerry Krause deciding to draft Scottie Pippen. If it wasn't a Michael Jordan-led team who he was drafting Scottie Pippen to, this would not be the same Scottie Pippen. It is Michael Jordan's driving force that created all of this greatness around him. But anyway, let's continue with Rich Paul.
Any finals, not one time. Michael never had a 24-hour, 365 news cycle. He never had shows built strictly to criticize him. People made millions of dollars criticizing LeBron James. That was their entire job.
Okay. I'm not even sure what the hell Rich Paul is talking about. First of all, yes, we live in the age of social media, and I must say I am glad to be part of the segment of content creators that tell the truth about the duck, the deer, the leader of the 4 and 6 kingdom, LeBron James. But again, I am an independent content creator. So Rich Paul, it's as simple as if LeBron James and you guys don't want to hear it, you cannot watch us. You cannot look at Dreamers Pro or Scap Attack or Ticket TV or, all of these shows. Now, if you are actually talking about mainstream media, Rich Paul, you must be completely insane if you think that anybody in mainstream media is telling the truth about LeBron James, or anybody in mainstream media is solely there to critique LeBron James, because everybody in mainstream media caps for LeBron James. I don't care if they say he's the GOAT. I don't care if they try to say he's default number 2. Everybody in mainstream media caps and makes excuses for LeBron James, with maybe the exception of Charles Barkley. Everybody in mainstream media, anytime LeBron James fails, you best believe the scapegoats are getting lined up. And it is never LeBron James' fault. They never criticize the many, many flaws of LeBron James, or, Skip Bayless to a certain degree. But again, Skip Bayless caps for LeBron James too, because he calls him the greatest driver of the basketball that he's ever seen, which is, to me, again, just like a sympathy compliment for no reason at all. Since when is LeBron James the greatest driver of the basketball compared to Michael Jordan, compared to Kobe Bryant, compared to Allen Iverson or Tracy McGrady or any number of people? How is LeBron James Mr. Put My Head Down and chug a lug towards the basket, and if they happen to double team me on the way, I'm gonna throw a panic outlet pass, because I don't have a go-to move to where I can get off a quality shot whenever I want to. So my only move is to chuck up a 3 or put my head down and drive to the basket with no awareness about what I'm going to do when this double team hits, about how I'm going to either split the double team or spin away from the double team to get a good shot off. Or again, LeBron James, everything that he does is from a reactionary standpoint, not from a calculated standpoint, like Michael Jordan and Kobe. Michael Jordan and Kobe had, or Larry Bird, or any number of players had calculated moves to where it's like, I know I can do this, and if they try to do this, I'm already thinking about how I'm going to avoid that because I know how to get off a quality shot. LeBron James does not have that. Anyway, let's continue.
And when you talk about the difficulty of it all, Michael played for Dean Smith, Michael played for Phil Jackson, and Michael had Jerry Krause. I'm the biggest Michael Jordan fan ever. Love Michael Jordan. And I don't think Michael Jordan would have used the term cherry pick, so I'm not up here to discredit Michael Jordan. I think Michael Jordan transcended our game to a level that we all benefited from, right? And
what the hell do you mean you think Michael Jordan transcended the game to a level you all benefit from? Everybody knows that even Wilt Chamberlain, who had a competitive thing with Michael Jordan to where they were backstage or whatever at the top 50 players of all time arguing about who was the GOAT. But even Wilt Chamberlain came on a talk show. I can't remember which one to say. He said, if it's one thing I can say about Michael is that all these players should give him a piece of their salary because he's the one who made it the NBA so profitable. Baby, I'm paraphrasing, but this is essentially what he said. So, Rich Paul, what do you mean you think he did this? Michael Jordan is the reason that the washed-up king can do half of the things that he does and still keep a job in the NBA. It's because of Michael Jordan.
And when you talk about the difficulty of it all, Michael played for Dean Smith, Michael played for Phil Jackson, and Michael had Jerry Krause. I'm the biggest Michael Jordan fan ever. Love Michael Jordan. And I don't think Michael Jordan would have used the term cherry pick, so I'm not up here to discredit Michael Jordan. I think Michael Jordan transcended our game to a level that we all benefited from, right? And I'm more so focused on less about who's the GOAT and why I can't be at a dinner with those two guys having a great conversation, or why I can't put, a little.
Okay, Rich Paul, when are you gonna stop lying? You're not concerned about the GOAT conversation? Is this really what you just said? You're less concerned about the GOAT conversation? Are you serious? When not only has Unklutch Sports spent their entire time trying to get people to see LeBron James as the GOAT, but it is known throughout media that they personally try to bully people into saying LeBron James is the GOAT. But let me tell you why Rich Paul said that. Rich Paul said he's not concerned with the GOAT conversation the same way that LeBron James said that one-on-one isn't real basketball, and that's because you can't win at it. Rich Paul said that he's not concerned with the GOAT conversation for the same reason that LeBron James said one-on-one isn't real basketball. It's because he can't win. LeBron James repeatedly gets beat in one-on-one by random players, just like he continuously gets beat at the GOAT conversation. And I think it's finally starting to set in. This year, when LeBron James took it too far, he took it so far that his own his own members of the 4 and 6 Kingdom started turning against him. He took it so far by getting Bronny James a job and getting J.J. Redick hired, so much so that people have started coming out and expressing their real feelings, and more people are coming out saying what they really feel about LeBron James, saying how LeBron James is overrated, and saying stuff like David Falk said that he may be top 10. And so I think Unklutch Sports is starting to slowly realize that they are in a battle that is impossible to win. I know they realize it. This is why they have went on this campaign of basically trying to say stuff like, well, people only think Michael Jordan is the GOAT because of nostalgia, or saying stuff like, well, people just aren't, it doesn't matter what LeBron James does, people aren't gonna let him pass Michael Jordan just because people who grew up back then. No, Rich Paul. I've said this many times. Fans of Jordan would love to see another Jordan. People who watch Jordan would love to see the NBA back in a state where it was that competitive. Would love to see another player that exciting and electrifying that, you know, it made you want to go out and hoop every day. Fans of Jordan would love to see that, but we are not going to let you break the standards or destroy the standards to crown somebody the next GOAT just because you want to be the GOAT, or just because the NBA needs us to believe there's another GOAT in this current era. We're not going to just give the title of the GOAT to someone who is clearly undeserving, someone who is clearly so far away from the GOAT conversation that, you know, he might as well be who? LeBron James might as well be Vlade Divac at this point. And I'm not talking about from the talent. I'm talking about because of the path he chose to try and get there. He might as well be Vlade Divac. And they both got flopping and coming, except I believe at least Vlade got contact when he was trying to oversell his fouls. Vlade and players back then were more trying to sell an actual foul that happened versus flopping when there was absolutely zero contact whatsoever. What are we talking about? Anyway, let's continue.
Or why I can't put, a little bit of the money that I've earned into a fund that those two guys have formulated, so we can be a part of the deal flow from the Blackstones and the Apollos and the Andreessen Horowitz and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And I think that those type of comments is also the reason why people that look like me in my community always think there can only be one king, and it's forever.
Yeah, let me stop you right there, Rich Paul. Wrong. Well, first of all, let me say there can only be one GOAT. See, again, this is where they try to start moving the goalposts. Now, there can be many great players, and if LeBron James was smart, he would have shut the hell up a long time ago and just accepted wherever people decided to rank him, because if he never called himself the GOAT, if he never wore number 23, if he never did the powder toss and tried and made Space Jam 2 and all these ridiculous things, then he would have more respect than he has now. But yes, Rich Paul, there can only be one king. There can only be one GOAT. That is what it means. The greatest of all time. But you don't want that to exist because people don't see LeBron James as the GOAT. Again, it's like if I can't have it, it shouldn't exist. There can be many great people, Rich Paul, but there can only be one GOAT. This is the problem. And this is like, just being a spoiled brat throwing a temper tantrum because you can't get your way. But guess what? You can't get your way. You cannot get your way. LeBron James will never be the GOAT. It's not gonna happen.
Or why I can't put, a little bit of the money that I've earned into a fund that those two guys have formulated so we can be a part of the deal flow from the Blackstones and the Apollos and the Andreessen Horowitz and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And I think that those type of comments is also the reason why people that look like me in my community always think there can only be one king. And it's forever embedded us as the minority in a lot of places, and why it's so uncommon to see a community of successful black men. So I thought that was very, again, beneath David Falk with all the success he's had and all the cherry picking that he's been able to do amongst the 3 highest level universities there could ever be as it pertains to aligning with the game of basketball. It doesn't get any bigger than Georgetown, North Carolina, and Duke. So he actually has a bag of cherries, so I'll leave that there, though.
Except David Falk is not an NBA player playing basketball on the court. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, let me say that Rich Paul is proof. LeBron James fanboys. For those of you out there who have super low IQ, aren't very smart, lack common sense, lack any skills whatsoever, let Rich Paul give you hope that you do not have to be smart to be successful. All you have to do is have a friend that has who's talented enough to get in the NBA during the time when the NBA is so desperate to find another Michael Jordan that they are willing to manufacture a superstar, and you get your friend in the NBA and that friend can help you start a business to be successful. You don't have to be smart, LeBron James fanboys, and Rich Paul is proof of that. So you guys should put a picture of Rich Paul up on your wall as a constant reminder that you can be somebody who whose life doesn't have to be showing up in my videos to defend your king. Anyway, people, we are gonna hold up here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. What do you think of Rich Paul, the smartest guy in the room, super high IQ Rich Paul, who doesn't know that goats have horns and not antlers? What do you think about what he had to say about David Falk and the whole cherry picking? He somehow tries to bypass the fact that LeBron James has cherry picked his team. He somehow tries to equate the fact that Rich Paul as an agent using his advantages to get the best, most high profile clients. Somehow he can't distinguish between that and being a superstar on a basketball team where the game has had a set of standards that players have played by for years, and part of those standards is a superstar leading his team to greatness, and that is part of what makes you great. The journey is part of what makes you great. How you did it is part of what makes you great. Your failures can be a part of what makes you great, but not always, because you got 2011. That does not make you great. Matter of fact, that was part of what ended all hopes of you being great. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. You all have a truly fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. All right.